Welcome to Destination Linux, the Jurassic Park of open source adventure, where every line of code is a prehistoric roar of innovation. I'm your Dr. Ellie Sattler this week, Jill, digging through the digital amber with my Raptor Sharp team ready to unleash the Linux wilderness. Michael is our Dr. Alan Grant, gruff, software digging kernel archaeologist who can lecture on KDE's history while dodging a T-Rex. His mantra, if I never update my system, eventually it's no longer laziness, it becomes a historic artifact. Ryan is our Ian Malcolm, chaotic hardware wrangler, tossing wrenches into proprietary systems and preaching open source with a life finds a way swagger. His mantra, code freely or it's extinction. This week's expedition, we're weaponizing your Raspberry Pi for ethical hacking, analyzing listener feedback on the Ladybird browser's flight path, and exploring the proposal from Fedora to remove 32-bit libs from the repo, plus a few more surprises from the jungle. So grab your Flare, sync your repos, and remember, Linux, finds a way? Let's survive the island. This is Destination Linux. It's a Linux system. I know this.
This week in our community feedback, we have a message from Tommy. Tommy says, I've been watching DL for many years, before even all of you guys got on board, and you've grown into an absolutely vital and extraordinary important force in our global community. I mean, that's
nice,
a heck
thank
of
you.
an opening.
Wow.
You know, that's how you open a message, you know? That's how you do it.
That is how you get your feedback on the show.
Yeah. That's a Jurassic Park, level of feedback right there. It's just, it's huge.
That's a T-Rex level of compliment.
Level. Yeah. The addition of Jill. Listen, do we always have to talk about how great Jill is? We get it. Okay. We get it. We picked her. Why do you think we picked her? We know she's awesome. All right, let's go on. The addition of Jill has added immensely to your gravitas by adding an additional historical and intellectual perspective. I agree. Jill is the greatest.
I also like how they said additional historical and intellectual perspective, not like just saying that we don't have the intellectual perspective.
Yeah, because we do get the messages where it's like, Jill is everything. You guys suck pretty much, like we get it.
We like do get those messages. That is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys ain't no slouches either, which that's what I like.
Yeah, there you go. Bravo.
Tommy's where it's at. I'm writing this today because I think this guy might be an interesting guest as a developer of a genuinely new browser. Here's the link in his YouTube video, which I watched. Appreciate you sending that. It would be fun to watch you guys grill him. Also, because a browser free of the suspicion of corporate greed is a necessary, important component of integrity. Thank you all for your great work. And the browser they're referencing is Ladybird browser, and the person is Andreas. And I think it would be awesome. Jill's been helping schedule a lot of our interviews, and we've got a lot lined up because of the Red Hat Summit. But we will absolutely reach out. Andreas wants to reach out to us. We would love to set that up as well, but we will reach out and see if we can get a hold and get them on, because I am very interested in this browser. It's not available yet. So if you're typing in, they have a website and everything, but you can't download it as of yet. But, I've really had a really difficult time recently with the browser choices. I agree with you wanting a browser free of suspicion that we can use in peace of mind, knowing that it's focused on the end user and not selling our data. And I'm in this weird place where I don't feel like I have a home when it comes to a browser. Primarily using Brave right now, but I don't fully trust Brave either. I'm not saying that they're not trustworthy. It's just one of those things where they do some stuff that's like question mark box pops over my head, like, I don't know. A lot of that with the crypto and stuff that they've done, and some of the advertising stuff that they do. And I know a lot of people like them because they remove the YouTube ads and stuff, but also that's how a lot of the creators make their living. So it's a really difficult thing because I get it. YouTube ads are annoying. Totally get it. But by removing them all, those people may not make content because they can't afford to make content. So it's like this, I get it. And then Firefox. Firefox just makes a lot of dumb decisions. And honestly, I don't know what the future looks like for Firefox anymore.
They're making some good decisions now.
Really?
Sort of.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, focusing on the browser, which is what everybody cares
tabs
about. Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Adding the vertical tabs, adding the groups back in, adding profiles finally. And well, technically they've had profiles forever. It's just been an incredibly awkward thing to use, and so awkward it's annoying, and no one used it. And also Mozilla never even told anybody it was there. So most people had no idea that you could use profiles. Now they're finally making a decent profile system. So they are building in things that people have wanted for years. So that's good. It's kind of clunky in how they're doing it, but it's still it's actually
you're not
forward
really
progress
for me.
No, I'm saying there are a lot of cool things that they're working on. They are also like eliminating certain things that are kind of a shame. I get why, but I don't know.
I'm not feeling it is all I'm saying. And so at the end of the day, if you use Brave, you're using something that's Chrome based, and that sucks. And using Firefox, at least you're not using something Chrome based, but it's Firefox, and well, they just make a lot of dumb decisions.
There isn't a great option right now.
There's not a lot of great options, and so I want somebody that's trustworthy, that's not sole focused, but heavily focused on privacy, and not Chrome. And Ladybird is offering those things, but you got to remember, Mozilla offered those things at a point too, and then they change, right? As they grow and get bigger, and then they don't really know what to do with their hands, type of thing, after they get bigger. And so, I'm interested in Ladybird. I think it's interesting that they have a lot of, corporations that are donating to them or that they're using to fund this. But at a certain point, let's say it grows really, really big. Are those same contributors always going to contribute even past its initial launch phase? And what are some other ways they're going to use to monetize? Because at the end of the day, you can always figure out what's motivating a company by following the money trail. And so you have to have a really solid approach to funding. And companies go through, we've had to deal with this as a podcast, these ups and downs where sometimes it's really easy to get great advertisers on your show. And other times when the economy's bad, nobody wants to spend a penny on marketing, and they don't want to spend a penny on donations. And so it becomes really difficult then during those times to survive. You got to be really smart with a business like this because it's completely and solely dependent on people being generous. And people are generally generous when they have a little bit of excess. And right now, not a lot of people have a lot of excess. So it's, but that's what I would like to talk to Andreas about, to understand what's their overall goal, how are they going to stay funded even in the hard times, all that stuff, because it looks fantastic. I love the concept. I love their mission statement. I love everything about what Ladybird is representing themselves as right now.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I'm kind of bummed that this is not available yet, and we won't even get an alpha until next year. I do like the fact that they have a focus on Linux and Mac also, and don't really care if Windows works or not. I think that's cool. I mean, eventually they're going to have Windows, of course, they said that, but I think that it's awesome to see that Linux is a flagship approach and effort to be supported on this browser. And it is something that they're doing that is cool, is that they pointed out that anytime there's a sponsorship, it is all they get is a thank you. And that's kind of and like a promotion on the website or whatever. They specifically say that they have no involvement or input into how everything's done. All it is they're taking the money and then hiring people to work on the stuff, and that's it. So I think that's a good approach, but of course we'll have to wait and see what happens in the future. But having him come on would be awesome for sure.
I've just been very impressed with all the people he has behind the scenes that are donating. I mean, that's showing a lot of progress and a lot of excitement around this project. And I just want to thank again, Tommy, for writing in your thoughtful words, made our day. And honestly, yes, we would love to have Andreas Kling on our show. That would be awesome. In fact, we've talked about it even in the past. That would be just so cool. And, actually back in 2022, like the end of 2022, I had compiled and ran Andreas Kling's Built from Scratch and very Unix-like Serenity OS.
Of course you did, Joe.
Well, it was an old school OS. I had to.
Look at her geeking out already.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it included an in-development HTML reader version of the Ladybird web browser. So I'm really looking forward to, the growth on the web browser and seeing where it's come, next year. This is just going to be wonderful. We need that independent, that third party that's gonna interrupt the the industry.
So what you're saying, Jilly, is Serenity now, Ladybird soon.
Yes.
I think things like Ladybird could also push organizations like Mozilla to do better as well. Like this is a really good time, I think, to come into the browser market with something fresh and new. And obviously, they're focused on Linux and Mac OS and Windows, so they'll have cross-platform support, which I think is fantastic. And their whole goal is just to focus on a good web browser. And I love it. And also, Tommy, you are a masterclass in writing email. Absolutely loved your email. Appreciate it. If you want to send in your comments and try to compete with Tommy, good luck. Go to destinationlinux.net/comments and send us your thoughts, or destinationlinux.net/forum. We love to hear from all of you. And thank you so much for taking the time to send us those messages. When you're talking about a web browser, one of the key things you're going to want, Michael, is good security built into that web browser.
That's true.
Linux users, we know what's up. Security is non-negotiable, but with threats getting smarter, your security tools need to keep pace without dragging your system down. Traditional agents, they slow you down and leave blind spots, and it's time for a smarter approach. There's all kinds of news out there this week about all of these really crazy hacks that people were worried about that are getting out there from different governments and things going after each other. So you really need something that's robust to protect your systems right now. And that's why Destination Linux is proud to be sponsored by Sandfly Security, the revolutionary agentless platform designed for Linux. Go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly and see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy. Sandfly doesn't just detect and respond, but it revolutionizes your security with SSH key tracking, password auditing, drift detection, covering threats from every single angle, whether your systems are in the cloud, on-premise, or in embedded devices. Sandfly ensures they're all secure without the headaches of an agent-based solution.
You get the option to do free trials, so you can actually try out everything and see how it can work in your system before you get into it. And also the price is just $8 a host. Such an awesome deal.
Yeah, it's an amazing deal for what you're getting there. We watched this demo live of the stuff that they are able to detect and pick up when we're at the Red Hat Summit. And let me tell you, you've got to check this thing out. It is really, really cool. Listen to what Celinda, the ComGee, says from Take Communications. Sandfly addresses a serious security gap in the industry, intrusion detection on Linux platforms. The best part of Sandfly is its agentless nature, making it a versatile application for any Linux environment. Experience security that's not just effective, but gives you peace of mind. No agents, no downtime, just cutting-edge protection.
And if you want to use it in your own home lab or your own home systems, you can get the Home Edition, and you can also get it discounted with 50% off if you use the discount code Destination50. So dive into the future of Linux security at destinationlinux.net/Sandfly. That's destinationlinux.net/SANDFLY.
Jill, I don't think people are taking Michael and I serious about how cool Sandfly is. Can you tell people to go to Sandfly? Can you tell? Because I think they'll listen to you if you tell them. Go ahead.
Oh, go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly and see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy.
And if you don't, Jill's going to be sad.
Yeah,
and that
don't
means you make
disappoint
Jill sad.
Don't disappoint Jill.
Don't disappoint her. Go there right now. All right, Jill, tell us about the topic you chose this week. It looks pretty exciting.
Yeah, so this is really huge news. Flathub, a centralized repository for Linux app distribution, has reached $3 billion downloads.
Billion
3
downloads.
billion downloads. And that is 1 billion up from last year in June when it reached 2 billion downloads, which was 1 billion up from the previous year. So literally
Michael,
in just a few years.
Billion a year. That's awesome.
Michael,
Isn't that
what would
amazing?
next year be?
4 billion downloads.
Man,
Yeah.
you're good at math.
It
You're
might
really
be
good at
5.
It could be 5. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
It might be picking up steam, you know?
Yeah,
math.
definitely.
Steam.
Yes, literally. So for our viewers that are new Linux users and for those that are experienced, I wanted to talk about the importance of this very important milestone and what Flathub is. Flathub serves as the official app store for the Flatpak ecosystem and is often called the Linux App Store. It is a centralized repository for developers to publish applications as Flatpaks and for users to discover and install them. Flatpak is a universal package format that allows easy installation, running, and updating of applications across most Linux distributions. And its key features include universal compatibility, sandboxing, easy installation, and automatic updates.
So there's a
What
lot
is-
of cool words there, Jill.
Yes.
But because we have a lot of new people, let's talk about some of these things and break them down a little bit. So universal compatibility for Flathub. So
Yes.
traditionally, let's say you're in Windows and you want to download a Mac file, a DMG file. It's not going to work. It's not going to execute because it's not universal. It won't work across those two different operating systems. In Linux, there's a bunch of distributions and they all have their different repositories.
Well, they also are all technically different operating systems. Like people, we describe them as distros. We describe them as distributions of Linux. But Linux is more of like the underlying kernel piece. And then there's a platform that is built from that. But they are all different operating systems. That's why like when people say, like I've heard people say this on forums and YouTube videos, and they say distros don't matter. But they do matter because when you have something that supports Ubuntu, it doesn't guarantee support Fedora. It doesn't guarantee support Arch. Like it depends on whether or not the people put support for those things because they are different operating systems. And this is a way for someone to build an application for universal compatibility because all of the different Linux-based operating systems have the ability to support Flatpaks. Well, depending on if the OS decided to support Flatpaks, but if they did, they have the ability to.
All the major ones do.
All the major ones do, and most of the hundreds do. So you have like the really good situation of having a Flatpak that you can install on everything, regardless, as long as it is a Linux distro. You're pretty much good to go.
Yeah. And regarding sandboxing, when a Flatpak is installed from Flathub, it bundles the application and its necessary runtime dependencies or the drivers that it depends on. And this package operates in an isolated, sandboxed environment, ensuring applications cannot mutually interfere or gain unauthorized access to system files.
So
Very
you got
important.
a virus because you downloaded a specific app, which is probably never going to happen in Linux, but anything's possible. And then that virus was like, I want to spread. It's going to theoretically hit a wall because that application is sandboxed from other applications, unless you've explicitly allowed that sandbox to have access
true.
to it.
Okay, for the most part, that's true. The problem with this is that sandboxing is really cool and it does keep everything into this confined space. And sometimes they keep it in defined of like only the downloads folder. And that's the only thing you get access to. So like there's so much level you could do with the sandboxing. It's very good. But there's also a lot of misconception about the sandboxing as if it is a completely containerized, localized thing that there is no interaction with your system. The problem with this is that Flatpaks have access to your home folder. Like almost all Flatpaks have access to your home folder. All of your files that are important to you are in the home folder. The only thing that this blocks is not having access to the system files so that it can't modify your system specifically and run like antivirus, like run a virus in your system. But it still could take your home folders, you know.
If you have the right security in place, it will ask you, do you want to allow this to access downloads folder? Do you want to allow this to access it doesn't just have carte blanche access to all of your systems if you're utilizing the proper security within the Flatpak.
I'm just saying that people shouldn't look at this as being like completely secure system. If you download something that's malicious and you put it in your system, you have that all it wants is to get your files from your home folder. It could possibly do that. It's just,
but it's better than a non-sandboxed application.
I mean, yes, of course, for sure.
Yeah. And Flathub actually also hosts thousands of applications, including major ones like LibreOffice, Firefox, GIMP, Steam, Discord, and Spotify. And there's not only open source apps, but proprietary ones as well. The benefits for users include also no need to worry about distribution-specific packaging accessibility. So you don't have to learn how to use apt or DNF. It's all the same package on no matter what version of Linux you're running. And there's safer app installation and more up-to-date applications. And as we were saying before, it's a lot. The updates are automatic.
I love Flatpaks. I think they make everything super convenient and easy. Like Michael said, if you're someone who's writing software for Linux, you have a bunch of different distros. You make it in a Flatpak, and then everybody can, on their distro that supports Flatpak, which is pretty much everything, can run that. And you don't have to write 18 different versions of your software to be compatible with Ubuntu and compatible with Fedora and compatible. It's just a much better way of doing things. And so Flatpaks are awesome. Flathub is a repository for that, not to be confused with the software store within your distro, because you have that too. But this is just another place where you can get a bunch of universal packages. In fact, a lot of the software stores actually do have Flatpak access now. They reach out to that Flathub and pull those down.
Some of them don't have the entire Flathub, and some of them do. So it's hit or miss depending on what your distribution is, whether you have the full Flathub. So you might have to activate more access, but it's still really cool. And also, there's a lot of people who talk about the centralized version of the Flathub and how some people don't think that's a good idea, and some people don't think that having a centralized, like the Snap Store is centralized and that sort of stuff. And not counting the closed backend stuff, the centralized aspects of a repository is important. It is fundamentally vital, in my opinion, for a universal store. That's why, in my opinion, app images have not been able to gain any traction, because where do you get them?
Yeah.
Like it's all random places here and there. And with a Flathub existing and just like, this is where you go to get Flatpaks. Super simple.
The security thing with sandboxing, Michael tried to ruin it. See, this is the problem with Linux people, Michael. You're the problem.
I'm not ruining anything. I'm not ruining it.
Problem, Michael. Because you tell people, hey, it's sandbox. You're like, well, it's not really secure. And then people are like, well, now I don't know. I'm new. Do I use it because it's not secure? Or is it sandbox and secure? You were kind of all over the place with that. It really wasn't. It really wasn't clear.
It's great. It is sandbox. It's great. But don't treat sandboxing as in there is absolutely no way it can get any of your files. There is a technical possibility that could happen.
I mean, that's with all security. There is no such thing as 100%.
It's complete
security.
lockdown.
I'm just pointing that out. That's all.
Well, my suggestion is check out Flat Seal. This is an extra software pick for you.
Yeah.
And if you want to use Flat Seal, that'll allow you to set individual permissions for all of your Flatpaks, and you can have micro control over the Flatpaks on your system and what they have access to.
That's a very good suggestion.
Thank you, Michael.
I regret giving you a compliment.
Aw. So Flathub has actually become so popular worldwide, with the United States, Germany, and Brazil being the top 3 countries for downloads. And there are many reasons why Flathub has reached a 3 billion download milestone, such as offering thousands of apps from well-known software to indie projects. And sometimes these indie projects can only be found as a Flatpak. They're not even available in your distributions repository. And it is well organized with categories like productivity, graphics, audio and video, developer tools, games, and apps, even for Linux phones. And Flathub ensures apps are available wherever you are and on whatever device you're using, like the Steam Deck, your Linux workstation, Raspberry Pi, and Linux phones. And you can easily see if an app is verified by its developer, which is very important. And it's something they've recently added in the last about 2 years. So that was a very important.
As Ryan mentioned earlier, I'm the downer guy. The verification doesn't exactly mean that, and it's kind of confusing, and I don't like that part. I wish they were more specific about how it works. It's some people look at it as being like, if it's verified, it's officially maintained by the developer of the app, and that is one of the two ways that it can be verified. The other way is that if a community-driven Flatpak is officially sanctioned by the developers of the app. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's officially maintained. That's just an extra, like, I wish they would make more
You're
specific.
such a nerd. Nobody cares.
It does matter, because if you're expecting the official maintainer or the official developers to give you help with that Flatpak, and they're not the ones making the Flatpak, it might be a problem.
Michael's that guy. You're like, hey, guess what? I finally landed my dream job. And you'd be like, was it really your dream job? Because I remember when you were 13, you wanted to pump gas at a gas station. And now you're just an executive. And that's stupid. But, you're always Debbie Downer. That's what I'm saying.
Aww.
You're Debbie Downer.
I would never say that. I'm just saying, I'm trying to, for people who are new to Linux, I want them to know the difference.
Now they're more confused. You didn't help them.
Yes, I did. I'm so helpful.
They wanted to know checkmark good. Non-checkmark bad. That's all they wanted to know.
Checkmark good, but also doesn't exactly mean what you think it means. That's the problem. That's more
I don't know what to do with checkmark.
That's more of a thing to the Flathub. Just make a clarification. Make one checkmark of one color and another checkmark another color. That's all you got to do. Just make it clear.
Let's make it more complicated.
Yeah.
No, you just hover over and it tells you what it means. That's all you got to do. It's not having the same thing be accessible by multiple different ways. It just creates a confusion of people, because I assumed that verified meant it was officially maintained, and I found out it wasn't. When I asked a developer of a particular application, and they got annoyed that I assumed that it was maintained by them. So I'm just saying that could be a problem.
Sounds like they're easily annoyed, and they need to work on that.
I am not saying anything about that. I'm not a downer like Ryan is.
Michael, sometimes your glass is half empty and it needs to be a little bit more half full.
It is more than it is more than half empty. It's only got 1/3 left, actually.
Look at that.
I'm giving you a hard time. No, thank you for telling us the reality of what's going on. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So Flathub also delivers apps and automatic updates. And as I said earlier, automatic updates are easy because it delivers them directly to users through their native app store clients, which is wonderful. You don't have to worry about updating them manually, because in your system's updates, it lets you know. And as well as being very easy to maintain for developers. And this is a biggie. Not to mention, it has over 1 million active users, and many Linux distributions pre-install Flathub like Linux Mint, Pop! OS, and Fedora. So there's a lot of good incentives there for the developers.
Gosh dang it. Michael just typed kinda after Jill's statement there. I am so done with you today. Who hurt you, Michael? Who hurt you?
I did. But are they pre-installed? Yes. You can get you get a version of the Linux Mint has Flathub that does not include the unverified apps. Then you have Fedora, which technically doesn't have the Flathub exactly, but when you click a button, it will add the Flathub. Like, I'm just saying.
Listen, I love Arch, but have you been hanging out in the Arch forums? You sound like an Arch forum person, like a mod on the Arch forums, maybe. I just feel
actually,
yeah, you got this whole Arch thing going on.
Technically, I was just putting that there to see if it would get you to respond.
Oh, it got me to respond. My blood pressure went through the roof.
I know. I saw it in your face. It's wonderful.
No, Flathub is absolutely amazing. I am so happy it exists. It's one of my favorite places to go to check out and find new software. A lot of our software picks and things.
It's the first thing I go to.
Flathub. Yeah.
And it's fun to browse through. It's like a little Steam store, like a little game store. You got little cool icons. You got descriptions. You find the coolest stuff there.
They also have an updated thing, like once a day they change this, where they have like a rotating of what's being promoted and featured. So you can actually find stuff. Yeah. Just go once a day and you can see new apps that are being featured and stuff like that. I think for me, Flathub is the first place I go to find a new app. And if I hear of an app and I want to see if it works on Linux, the first thing I try is see if it's on Flathub. because
I have to really want the app if it's not on Flathub. Like, I'm probably not going to install it unless I really, really need it.
For me, it depends on like the performance. If there's a performance hit, like for something like there's usually it's not going to have a problem with Flathub. Flatpaks usually don't have any performance hits, but some things are no. Like video games, you don't necessarily want a sandboxed thing on top of your Proton on top.
But you can get Steam
exactly. But yeah, Steam does work well as a Flatpak, but I never install it as a Flatpak.
We're going to get to this later in my other topic. The Steam Flatpak does not have everything. So anyway,
it doesn't.
It's everything I want. We're going to talk about weaponizing your Raspberry Pi so that you can attack Michael with it because he's a Debbie Downer.
That is not what we're saying.
So I've got some exciting news. Kali Linux 2025.2, a major update for ethical hackers and penetration testers, has arrived, and it's introduced 13 new tools, new pen testing tools for ethical hacking. You can ethically hack Michael because I gave you permission.
Out of the side of my peripheral vision, I saw Ryan hold up his hands, and he was just pointing. And I thought he was air quoting of like ethical hacking.
Yeah.
I may have accidentally done that. So this is really cool because this is compatible with Raspberry Pi. And so you can take this Raspberry Pi, I don't know, what are they, $35, $45, $55?
$45, I think, is this new base. Yeah.
Very inexpensive little computer. And you can turn it into this incredible tool. You can install Kali Linux on it, and it's very easy to do. You get the ARM image, micro SD card, you flash it with Balena Etcher or whatever, flashing tool you want to use. And now all of a sudden you have access to these super powerful tools like Nmap, AirCrack NG, Burp Suite for network wireless, web testing, all these different things that you can do right there. Yes, Wireshark is available on Raspberry Pi. That is such a powerful, incredible tool. And you can run it right off a Raspberry Pi, which is insane. So this is just a really cool project for you to do with your Raspberry Pi. And some of the new stuff on there and some of the existing stuff is just so cool. So I kind of put together some of the things that I'd seen in the community that people were doing. So they were basically using a USB Wi-Fi adapter with the BRC MF Mac Nexmon driver for monitor mode and packet injection. Then using things like AirCrack NG for Wi-Fi cracking and AirDump NG and WLAN Oman to capture WPA2 handshakes. And then they're getting all of these different Hack5 tools, like these different Wi-Fi adapters and pineapples and different things, and basically running all of that off of the Raspberry Pi. Now, take it from my personal experience being in cybersecurity classes for college, and trying to play with some of these tools on my actual network, not great. Got my whole internet shut off.
Careful when you use these tools. Set up virtual machines, networking, virtual machines, virtual networking inside of it. Play with the network there, not your own LAN. Will not work out for you.
Not work out well. You will
keep Ryan off Metasploit.
Yes, that's the one that got me. So set up OpenVPN on the Pi to create a secure VPN server. This one you could do safely for yourself. You could set up your own VPN server utilizing OpenVPN right on your Raspberry Pi, which is super cool. And then this one really caught me, which is the automotive hacking is now a thing with Michael. You're going to love
the greatest name. The greatest name.
Carcinal.
It used to be like Arsenal or something like that, and then they just turned Carcinal is such a good rebranding. Good job.
Yeah,
it's so good. Arsenal and car. I mean, it just flows so well.
It's good. Whoever comes up with this stuff, genius. You can leverage Kali NetHunter, Carcinal tools like ICSIM and Carrying Caribou for automotive security testing, simulating CAN bus environments. Here's a little more information on the whole Carcinal hacking. Cars use something called a CAN bus. And that's how they communicate with all the different parts. All the monitoring of your engine, your brakes, your dashboard, all that stuff goes through that system. So Carcinal tools like Carrying Caribou can listen to this network and see what messages are being sent. theoretically, if you know how the messages are being sent, you could intercept those messages and change those messages and make it do cool stuff that it wasn't supposed to do. And that's what people do. They hack
Like
stuff.
change the lights on it and, mess with the lights or make it go too fast.
Turn the security off on your radio. You know how it won't let you watch movies on. Remember when I did the Raspberry Pi and I integrated it into my Honda's dash, and every time you would put it in drive, it would remove it out of the movie mode. However, you could hack that so that while you're in drive, it could still play movies, which is very dangerous, but it's fun. And that's what matters. I also played video games in my car. You could run, I had a controller hooked up and you could play it right from the middle dash. All kinds of cool stuff you can do. Hack your own stuff.
While parked.
Yes, exactly. Also, because it has the GPIO pins, there's a lot of physical hacking that you can do with hardware relays, door locks, other things in there. And there's so much fun stuff that you can do with the Raspberry Pi. So, I've got one of these flippers. These are very cool little hacking devices that you can play with as well. But Raspberry Pi is way cheaper than this thing, and you can still do a lot of cool stuff with it.
And also, you didn't mention this in the notes, but the latest release also includes something that I just love the idea of it. Now, it's very specific. I think it only works on one smartwatch. I don't remember which one it was, but they have now the ability to run NetHunter on the smartwatches. Or at least this one particular one, maybe more in the future. And it just makes me think of like the Dick Tracy character, the movies and like the cartoons and stuff about like you can have like your watch that does all these different things. We kind of have that now with the smartwatches in general, but to be able to do that kind of stuff, it like kind of brings it all together to make the full possibilities happen.
It's super cool. Raspberry Pis are just one of my favorite pieces of hardware you can own. If you don't own a Raspberry Pi, you need to own one. That's what we would say if Raspberry Pi sponsored us. But since they don't, there are also other boards out there that you can check out that are very cool too.
That's what we would say, but also we it is great. Raspberry Pi is great.
Yeah, we say it anyways because they're awesome. Love their stuff.
So the next thing we want to talk about this week is a little bit of drama news, like a little bit.
Ooh, I love drama.
So
who did it? Was it Becky with the good hair?
And it was actually Charlene in accounting. And
I knew it, Charlene. She's always up to no good.
But really, I don't even know where that came from. But really, Fedora, there's a new change proposal for Fedora 44 that suggests dropping i686 support. Now, what does that mean? Well, basically stopping the inclusion of 32-bit libraries or multi-lib in x86 64 repos and stop building any i686 RPMs at all.
That's it. I'm done with Fedora. They're dead to me. I'll never use their distro again. I'm switching to a distro that cares about my libraries, and Fedora ain't it. Wait, you said this is just a proposal.
It is just a proposal. It is just a conversation.
All right. I'm not mad yet, but I could be.
You could be.
That's what I would say if it wasn't just
But for those who don't know, the proposal just means it's a discussion. They're not really implementing anything. It's just like they wanted to bring up this idea to discuss it and see what's the best approach to do this sort of thing. So it is currently being blown up way out of proportion on Reddit and YouTube videos and whatever. And they're suggesting that this is like some kind of like breaking support and compatibility and stuff like that. Now, if this were to have been done the way it was originally written, that would have been a problem. That would have caused issues by a lot. It would even have hurt Bazite, the gaming Universal Blue project, to have like having Steam built in and all this other stuff. It would have hurt that for sure if it was done in the exact way it was proposed. But the whole point of proposing it is to find where the things need to be changed and where compromises can happen, and if it's even a good idea. So I guess the idea is just to start the conversation to see where it goes. But whereas a lot of people are saying that it's already happening, and I even saw one saying that Fedora is destroying gaming and stuff like that. It's just a conversation at this point. However, if they were to have done it the way that they talked about originally, it could have been bad for Steam, and that's because the Steam client is 32-bit for some reason. I can't imagine why, but it is, and that's the issue that would be caused by this for most people.
Well, I imagine the Steam client's 32-bit because it still has to launch a lot of 32-bit application.
Well, no,
Older
because
games.
it's 64-bit on Mac, I think. So, like, it doesn't have to be 32-bit. Like, you can have 32-bit support. Like, Windows games are some 32-bit, some 64-bit. Some applications are 32-bit, 64-bit, but they have a way to run 32-bit inside of 64-bit. So you could just run stuff that's 32-bit inside of the 64-bit in the sense of like Steam.
So
as
the
well.
Windows
So they don't
version is
have
still
to-
32-bit
like
as well.
WoW 64
Right.
is
Right.
And-
The Steam, I get why Valve doesn't bother with that one, but like it just makes more sense in the future for the 64-bit, the 32-bit packages and the libraries to be taken away once there's no, fundamental feature that people want, depending on them, which is at this point is basically Steam.
So there are parts of Steam client that are 64-bit, and there are parts of it that are 32-bit. And according to these articles I'm seeing, the hybrid approach allows Steam to support the legacy games.
Yeah.
And in Windows, it's 32-bit with some 64-bit portions of the. There's no official 64-bit version of the Steam client in Windows. And it looks like for Mac OS, Steam has also been 32-bit, but has some 64-bit pieces in it as well. So I don't think anybody's fully 64-bit.
I mean, that's just what my research showed that the Mac one.
Your research was wrong.
At the same time, I don't play games on Mac, so whatever. But
Who
yeah,
plays
it could
games on Mac?
There's not that many available, and
I don't know anybody
the
who plays games on
developers
Mac.
don't want to develop for Metal and all that. So,
but I think that proposing something like this is fun, and like you said, this is where you have the discussion to say, here's the things we probably could kill off, like Ubuntu did not so long ago, and here's the things that we need to keep support, and I think it will be fine. If they went and did this now and then then it would really put Fedora in a different spot. It would put Fedora in like a Mac OS spot where it's like, it's good for everything else, but if you game, don't use Fedora. But Fedora has spins that are focused on gaming. So I just don't see this happening. I think it's a cool proposal. I think there's probably some things you can do. But eventually, we do have to come to the realization that we can't support 32-bit probably forever. So what's the solution here? Is it some type of emulation that we can run?
Maybe a translation layer, like Windows does translation layer stuff. But the way I think that this is the big issue is that people are blowing it up out of proportion. And I wanted to bring it on the show to point out that it's not really that bad. There are recommendations of like what could be done and that sort of stuff, like technically you can use the Flatpak with Steam. And like we talked about earlier, but the Flatpak with Steam is missing the ability to use like VR headsets. It can't use the Flatpak game scope. So you can't use like the X server through the game scope session, which limits, the Bazite team in a lot of ways and stuff like that. So there are a few things that the Flatpak for Steam does not really provide. And you would need like more traditional style RPMs or DEBs, depending on your distro, to have all that sort of stuff. But it is something that eventually is going to happen. The only thing I would say that is a little bit of a cautionary thing, because having this conversation with the developers and the other distributions and like the Universal Blue team and all that sort of stuff, having those conversations is good because you can figure out what's the best path to go forward, because you have to have these conversations in order to find out what the best path is. So totally on board for that. I do think that the F44 for Fedora 44 is a little bit too early to have that as like the marker, because that's literally less than a year away. That's only like maybe 8 months away.
Does it give a lot of people time to switch over?
Yeah.
Right?
I think they should just open that to be like a future potential Fedora release rather than a specific version, because that's a way too close in my opinion.
And everyone remembers this is just like what Ubuntu did 7 years ago, trying to deprecate 32-bit all over again. It's like living that life.
This was slightly different. It
is. Yeah.
In the case of Ubuntu is that they accidentally included the stuff that Steam wanted, and then was like, "Oh, our bad," and then they kept it. So it's I mean, This is more like they're fully aware, but it's also just a conversation. So like it's not a big deal in terms of like, and also the fact that if you read the forum thread that is about this particular topic, which by the way has a lot of comments, as you would imagine. So if you read that forum thread, you'll see people saying stuff like, I'm glad we got to a compromise, and we know, we have ideas of where to move forward. So it does have some cordial conversation.
I don't like that cordial stuff. That's not for the internet. Cordial conversations are not for the internet. You need to be flaming hate and anger and
rage monsters is all that the internet is for. Is really
yeah. You got to have the rage. In fact, Jill was protesting this weekend on the street corner with signs about this thing. She said, she was Fedora removed 32. We hate you. That was her chant.
Yeah, she was so into that protest. She didn't just hold a sign. She got one of those spinning arrows that you spin around your head and stuff.
Oh yeah.
No, Fedora, bad move.
Yeah, but the truth is, it's just like what Michael and Ryan were talking about earlier. This step is just too drastic, and the pieces are not in place to support 32-bit removal just yet.
But I think that's why it's important to have these proposals.
To have the conversation,
right?
And this is good because I think the community outcry will actually stop it from happening, since it still is in the proposal phase. But we got to think about these things for the future, and it's so true.
Eventually, this will happen.
Yeah,
just hopefully not Fedora 44.
Yeah, and hopefully Valve will make a fully 64-bit Steam. That would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think Fedora will make the right decision here. They generally do. So I'm not worried yet. But if they do it, just know Jill will get a sign in front of your building and protest.
Well, you do not want to disappoint Jill. Just keep that in mind.
We get what we want on this show by just threatening the use of Jill a lot.
Yes. Disappointing Jill. We threatened that they're going to disappoint Jill, and then we get what we want because we're just...
They never cared before Jill joined the show when I would say I'm disappointed in XYZ. But as soon as Jill joined, then they started caring, Because how many times did I go on big rants on the show before Jill joined and nobody cared, Michael? I did make it into release notes.
That's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure that was before Jill. The Ubuntu Mate thing. I think that was before Jill.
Yeah.
So
I guess my rants matter.
So like once
once my rants matter. Just so they control me. Exactly. Speaking of Flathub, there's an awesome app called Jasmine I want you guys to check out. It is very unique. I don't know what to think about it yet, but I want you all to check it out and write us and let us know what you think of it.
Yeah.
It's a comprehensive web launcher and session management application that takes all of your scattered bookmarks and browser tabs and organizes them into a launchable workspace. It's very much geared towards productivity enthusiasts and multi-account managers. So people who have a lot of social media accounts and other things that they're managing, you can basically set up all these different profiles and have the different bookmarks there and be able to set everything up. Also, like if you're switching browsers a lot, which you may be, you'd have something to store all of your bookmarks in one place. So you don't have to worry about, trying to transfer your bookmarks over. Although most browsers make that pretty simple. So you get things like smart bookmarking, store websites with titles, URLs, comments, favicons, login references, session management, private profile system, isolating your browsing environment for multi-account management, multi-account support. So simultaneously access multiple accounts on the same service without conflicts. It's got a built-in browser to it as well. Built-in download manager, 2FA integration, screenshot capture, master password protection, and like I said, if you have multiple Gmail accounts, GitHub profiles, social media accounts, and you want to isolate all those from each other, each private profile operates as a separate browser with its own cookie, login sessions, and browsing data. So it's kind of a really cool way to keep all of that stuff sandboxed, Michael, which works really well. Sandboxing does.
Anyway, so this is a cool idea. This is a cool idea. I'm like you said, I don't know exactly how I feel about it because certain parts of it are really cool concepts. And then you also look at the UI and it looks like it was made 10, 15 years ago.
It's not a great UI, but it's a great concept.
It is a great concept. So there's also some other tools that have existed in this space of having like multiple, like not everything. This does a lot more than the other ones do. But the idea of having like all your applications and all your accounts for a particular service kind of merged together in just one application, like Twitter TweetDeck kind of thing back in the day. Or there was this one.
Those were the days, Michael.
Yeah.
This new stuff is poppy crop,
Yes, exactly. crappie crop, whatever. There was also an application, I won't name it because I don't want to give it any promotion, that was open source. I used it. I helped contribute to it. It was great. Then they decided, hey, we're going to close source it because screw you for helping us and that sort of thing. So those things happened, and that's a shame. But I like the idea of having a single application where I can have multiple things just ready to go in like a workspace and just load it all up. It's like I want all my Mastodon accounts to load up all at once and be able to manage with them and interact with them all at one time, which is really cool.
How many people do you pretend to be, Michael? You have so many Mastodon accounts.
I don't pretend. I pretend to be me. And then I also post as Destination Linux and as This Week in Linux and as Tux Digital and etc. So, but I still just pretend to be me, just one.
Interesting. By the way, we're talking about Jurassic Park being the theme. And if you've been a longtime listener of this show, you know that Michael enjoys LARPing as a dinosaur on the weekend.
Yes, he sure
Michael
does.
has been LARPing as a dinosaur on weekends for decades. And
that
Michael, I do not want...
happened.
Listen, I don't want you to be embarrassed about this. This is something that I'm proud of. Jill's proud of that you do it. You've been doing it for years. Can you please, for us, do the Raptor?
There we go. We got to do it again.
Can we have the Raptor?
So for those who don't know, the stuff that Ryan is saying is complete nonsense that he's making
There's video of it.
Yeah.
On this show, there's video. But it's all nonsense, except for one episode. He said this nonsense, and I made a joke where I did a Raptor thing.
It's really good, Michael. You've been practicing so long that
I have never done it more than one time ever.
Please.
So if you can find the episode where I did it, then you can see it. I'm not doing it again.
That's such a cop out.
It was it was one of our game reviews. It was one of those segments.
Oh, good job.
Oh, no. I know exactly which episode it was now.
Yeah.
I actually do know what episode it was.
Is Wendy editing? What's the episode?
Hey, Wendy, forget we talked about this because we're not going to.
We're going to overlay Michael LARPing. You got to watch the video version this week. He is one of the best Raptor. I think he holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest LARPing of a Raptor ever. So that is, we're really proud of him. We're really proud of him.
No.
By the way, tip of the week this week, had an interesting situation occur where my boss was switched to Linux. Look at that. That's pretty cool, right?
That is very cool.
And so really excited.
Although when you convince people to switch to Linux, people say like, oh, you have like a lot of responsibility because you've convinced them. You've convinced your boss to switch. What does that mean?
You leave them stranded and you're fired, right? So you got to get this crap right. You got to get it right. So, they're like, hey, I'm getting a Wi-Fi dongle, because the dongle I have for Windows isn't supported in Ubuntu. They got Ubuntu installed perfectly because Ubuntu makes it so easy, so well done, which is great. But their Wi-Fi adapter didn't work, the USB Wi-Fi adapter.
Yeah,
so that's
a bummer.
So, I think they went on to Amazon. They typed in Linux. They didn't ask about this part, asked me specifically this part, and got a Wi-Fi dongle that looked like it worked for Linux. Because there's this thing where when you type in Linux Wi-Fi dongle in Amazon, it comes up with this bros trend, which I had never heard of before, but they're all over the place now. Like every result is like, you got to scroll through 6 of bros trend before you get to anything different.
It even says overall pick at the top of it somehow. Like there's a little marker that says overall pick. And I was like, I've never heard of this company. Why would this be?
So they order one of these bro trends, they plug it in, and of course it doesn't work because get this, it does work in Linux, but you have to download the driver, which if you have a Wi-Fi dongle,
how do you get this stuff? It's a paradox,
Yeah.
You don't have internet to download, and it doesn't come with the driver. And so instead of getting the driver installed in the kernel, like other device manufacturers,
it's exactly the same thing. Is you just get out of college with your new diploma, and they want 5 years experience when you can't. I need to get the job to get the experience. But no, you got to have the experience first. What?
And this is what's so frustrating is, Jill, you could probably go into a store today, buy almost any laptop, come home, install Ubuntu on it, and the Wi-Fi card and everything will work out of the box. Yeah. But of course, in this case, you got this company, Bros Trend, who isn't making their driver available in the kernel, which you need to fix, Bros Trend. If you want to sponsor us, And we would say good things.
We
about
would
you.
say good things about it.
But
you
seriously,
should fix that sort of thing. Yeah.
This is frustrating because if you
make it work.
If you
out of the box.
advertise that you work for Linux, and technically they do, I still feel like, especially if you're a Wi-Fi dongle, you need to include the driver in the box, at least with a CD or USB device or something. Very, very frustrating if you're not going to put it in the kernel. It needs to be in the kernel. But anyway, so it got me thinking. There's probably a lot of people out there who are trying. Well, we know there's a lot of new listeners out there. Like we had a 32% increase in listeners. So who are brand new to Linux.
36%.
And so how much is it? 33%? 36%.
Yeah.
Welcome. But a lot of you may be trying Linux for the first time, and I hope you don't run into that experience because it is very rare, and that's just how things work out sometimes. So my advice is if you're in Amazon, you're looking for Wi-Fi dongle, look for a Raspberry Pi Wi-Fi dongle, because if it works for a Raspberry Pi, it's almost guaranteed going to work out of the box for Linux. That would be a good one. And some brands to look for while you do that search is Panda and TP-Link, things like the MP300 and stuff, where the drivers are built into the kernel. Like most every piece of hardware out there that you're going to buy generally is built into the kernel at this point, at least for initial support. In this case, of course, frustratingly, it wasn't.
There's also one called Edimax that I have that works pretty good. Yeah, I've got a couple of those dongles that work just perfectly fine. Just plug it in, you're good to go. So there's a lot of them that do work with Linux out of the box, just plug and play, but not all of them. And the funny part, you mentioned the Raspberry Pi thing. When you said that, I was thinking like, this is a fantastic suggestion. It is a great way to do it, because sometimes people use the term Linux and they don't really know exactly what they mean. Like, well, it's using universal standards, so it should work, but they don't actually have testing on it. And Raspberry Pi typically has people saying like, that is going to specifically work for that device, and if it does, it's going to support Linux. So it's a good suggestion. And it also is funny because I found out that Edimax existed because of the Raspberry Pi, because I was searching for a Raspberry Pi Wi-Fi adapter, like back in the day when Raspberry Pis did not have Wi-Fi, though they do have Wi-Fi now, but back in the day they didn't. And like I had like the Model B or whatever from like the beginning, and I needed to get Wi-Fi, so I found that. So I took Ryan's advice like 8 years ago. I don't even know. I didn't even know it was his advice, but I did it. You know,
he did.
That's how good it is.
Here's the other part that I thought was really interesting that goes a little bit contrary to some of the things that we preach sometimes on the show is, they still got Ubuntu installed, and they said to me, I said, how do you like it? They don't have internet, so it's kind of hard to do a whole lot with it. But they're like, one of the things that was disappointing is how good it looks out of the box. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, it's already set up for you. And I thought one of the cool things about Linux is you get to customize everything. And I'm like, well, you still can. They just make it really beautiful out of the box. And they were like, I don't know. I think I want to start with something more advanced so that I can build everything from scratch. And I was like, have you heard of Arch? Arch is
yeah.
So do not.
But I suggested it in a virtual box. I suggested doing it in a virtual box first. And then
it's like
you're
begging to be fired.
Yeah.
So anyways,
boss, if you're watching this,
if you need an employee that does a podcast, I will be available for hire next week. Probably. Yes, Arch is the way.
But there is a lot of benefits to building it yourself, but also not everybody wants to have that option. Some people like to having it, just nice out of the box. And that's why Linux is amazing. We have all the different configurations, whatever you want, whatever path you want to take, you can do it in Linux.
Yeah. But what a nice compliment too, in a way of saying like, it just looks like a great operating system. Everything's nice
That's true.
out of the box. I mean, Ubuntu does it very, very well. So do a lot of distros. But Ubuntu does it very, very well. And that's where we're at with Linux. You boot into it and it's so beautiful and so set up. It just like, okay, it's already riced for me. Wait, I want to do something fancy with it. And you still can. You could still go out there and do stuff behind the scenes. You can install
extensions and all that sort of, you can do all sorts of stuff. You can still customize it. It's really, there's really a lot of stuff you can do just on vanilla Ubuntu that can still customize it to however you want. And there's also options you could do with like going full in if you wanted to. And that's one of the things that you're like, it's funny that you're talking about how now these days you can just install it and it's good to go and it's polished and you don't have to worry about it. And a lot of distros are like that. And I remember when I first got started with Linux, that is not how it was.
That's back when Raptor still roamed with humans on Earth.
Yeah.
That's why I started LARPing, apparently.
Yes.
Well, one of the cool things, speaking of that, Ryan, is that my students, usually their first reaction that they're blown away by when I'm doing a demo of how to install Linux in class, it's so fast. Within 5 minutes, you're up and running in Blenders. You can download Blender, and
I have no doubt that would have been some of the words he would have said if he had internet.
Yes.
To download stuff to see how fast it is.
So once he gets the dongle that works, then ask him again and get a follow-up.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now what do you like?
There you go.
Then we'll report back on a future episode of Destination Linux.
Yeah, there you go. Well, a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. And you can come join us in our Discord. Go to tuxdigital.com/Discord. And by the way, this is a guarantee. If you're a patron, if you become a patron of this show, Michael is going to LARP Raptor, but just for the patrons at the end of the show to thank them for all the amazing support, for all the years of support for keeping this show alive. Michael said it would be an honor to LARP as a Raptor for our patrons. And so if you're a patron, you'll get to see that in the unedited version of the show, which you can only see if you're a member by going to tuxdigital.com/membership. Michael, thank you for the sacrifice you're making for our patrons. Because I know you take this show on the road and people pay to see you LARP as a Raptor, but you're doing it for our patrons for free. And that's amazing. Thank you, Michael.
So, patrons, Ryan did not run that by me whatsoever. And yes, I'll do it. So become a patron at tuxdigital.com/membership, and you will get to see, for some reason, me LARPing as a Raptor.
Oh, it was so cute. It was so awesome.
For some reason.
So for some reason, if you want to. But you also get other perks. In addition to Raptor LARPing, you also can see the unedited versions of the show. You can watch the show live. and you can get some discounts at our store at tuxdigital.com/store.
My sides hurt.
We got a bunch of cool stuff at the store. We have hats, t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, so much more. tuxdigital.com/store.
And make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right. We have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with geeky goodness. Head to tuxdigital.com to keep those Linux penguins marching. And everybody, have an awesome week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination or the Raptor.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. And if you're a patron, stay tuned.
It's going to happen, folks. The show has just begun. Oh, so good. So good. You're welcome, Michael. I want people to see your talent.
Yeah.
All right.
I want the world to know how talented you are.
All right. I'm going to do it now as like a thing. And then I'm going to send the clip to Wendy. And Wendy, you have to put it in the patron only thing because that's the perk, right?
Yeah.
And because I actually remember.
What a perk. What a perk for a patron.
Exactly. What an amazing perk. You're welcome, patrons. Thank you for being a patron, and to thank you even more.
Here we go.
I agreed to this.